giving himself a bit of breathing room as Andy Lowe now moves up into 7th overall here in qualifying. That will put him 3rd in the national category, behind Amir Faisalin and Johnny Kazoum. Johnny Kazoum, the leading pole sitter in that category at the moment, 3rd overall, and he'll be absolutely delighted to start inside the top 4 as he's bumped down to 4th overall as Alex Bukanstov now goes 3rd fastest with a 2:03.352. Harry Hannum now tops the time sheets there with purple through sector 2, but Novichkov goes purple through the 2nd sector, and that was an improvement up from 2:02.347. So just under a 1/10 of a second is separating Harry Hannum and Alexander Novichkov. Then it's a further second back to Alex Bukanstov and Johnny Kazoum, who will share the 2nd row for the time being, but there are still 8 minutes remaining on the clock here for the first race of the day in terms of qualifying, because of course we've got to set up the field before we go racing. And Harry Hannum looking for another quick lap here as a young British driver with a 2:02.274 on the previous lap, and he's going quicker again because he's just done a 40.409, 3/10 of a second faster than Novichkov through that first sector, and Alex Bukanstov was 2/10 of a second slower compared to Novichkov in that first sector as well, although with that said, that was a personal best from him. Vasily Vatikin up now into 7th position overall as the Cypriot with a 2:04.544. Alexander Klebanov up now into 10th position as well, cracking the top 10 for the first time. Now into the pit lane has come Amir Faisalin from 8th in this session so far in that number 15. Best lap time for him is a 2:04.867. He's 3/10 of a second off of Vasily Vatikin, who looks like that will be who will be lining up alongside as Andy Lowe there across the line in the number 4. 9th fastest, a 2:05.081. It was an improvement, but not enough to move himself 1 position up the grid to put himself on that 4th row. Hannum there across the line with a 2:01.928 that time round. Bukanstov across the line as well with a new personal best of a 2:03.101 for the number 63, a former champion. As Johnny Kazoum across the line as well. Still in 4th, and that's a very, very comfortable position for him for the time being, because of course he has one thing on his mind here as well. Not just a podium in class, but he also wants to be on the overall podium as well when it comes the end of race number 1 here at the Dubai Autodrome. So Novichkov across the line as well with a 2:02.646. That's not an improvement. It's 3/10 of a second off of his best time so far, or actually literally less than 1,000th of a second was the gap between himself there and his best lap so far. As Perry Deramas across the line, as is Vasily Vatikin as well. Vatikin moves himself up into 6th position, and he'll share that 3rd row with the number 69 of Perry Deramas. Now Sergey has moved up as well in the 44, our sole newcomer to the Golf Radical Cup here with 5.5 minutes remaining on the clock. The lap time to beat by Harry Hannum is a 2:01.928. He is 4/10 of a second quicker compared to Alexander Novichkov, who sits in 2nd at the moment. Bukanstov and our race 1 winner in round 1 in 3rd position at the moment, and he's done a personal best through sector 1 with a 40.857. Sabine Yousaf there across the line in the 13 on his return to the championship, improves on his time as well at 2:04.403. They'll make it a little bit more difficult now for Amir Faisalin to catch up, but into the pits very quickly for Amir Faisalin. Maybe just a few tweaks to the setup here just to get things just right here and try and improve that lap time and start somewhere within the top 5. Now Harry Hannum in the 19 is coming into the pit lane on his cool-down lap here. Maybe a slight setup adjustment as well here for the young British driver, and to see if they can maybe get a little bit more speed out of that number 19, as we're looking at the rear end there of Amir Faisalin, who's come out of the pit lane in 8th overall for the time being. We'll have to see what he can do now in terms of sector times. Novichkov, Bukanstov and Kazoum still circulating out there as Perry Deramas across the line. with a last lap time of a 2:03.632. That is almost 3 seconds off of his quickest lap time so far, but currently sat inside the top 5 and will start on the 3rd row of the grid alongside Vasily Vladikin here for the time being. But we still have 4 minutes remaining on the clock here for sprint qualifying here to set the field up for both race 1 and race 2. Of course, the first race will be the quickest time from qualifying in this session, and the second one will be the second fastest time set by the drivers, as the 96 will come into the pit lane now of Vasily Vladikin. Well, actually, he's gone across the line there, so a very slow sector 3 time for the Cypriot driver. Sergei is in the pit lane as well, 10th overall, and followed by Alexander Klebanov as well into the pit lane in 11th overall, with a lap time of 2:05.717 as his best so far here at the Yas Marina circuit. So 3 cars currently in the pit lane. I wonder if we will see Harry Hannum come back out, or if he seems comfortable with that lap time there, and is seeing what Novichkov, Bukunstov and the rest of the field are doing here. Does he think he has a big enough gap of 0.4 of a second so far in qualifying here at the Dubai Autodrome for round 2 of the Golf Radical Cup, the 25-26 season here at the Dubai Autodrome. Harry Hannum, provisional pole sitter by 0.4 of a second over Alexander Novichkov, with Alex Bukunstov now making his way through the final corners. Now, it was an improvement on the previous lap at 2:02.853, but yellow through 1 and 2, so that means he's coming into the pit lane here. Now, will there be a final adjustment, a final tweak here to that number 63 car just to get it right? But it's going to be cutting it very, very close. And actually, I think it's done and dusted for Bukunstov. I think this is where he will bow out and settle for the 2nd row of the grid. Great qualifying effort, though, from Johnny Kazoum so far as well, the Lebanese driver in 4th position at the moment. And that is a fantastic place for him to be starting, because he is right in front of his closest rival, Perry Deramas. There's only 11/100ths of a second separating the two of them, but in racing, it's more important to be slightly quicker and ahead of your closest rival to ensure that you have that optimal starting position. So great qualifying there for the number 5, and he'll be absolutely delighted with that. Perry Deramas there also in the pit lane. So our top 5 have actually all come in, as Vasily Vladikin will come across the line now in that 96, and he will go 6th fastest, just ahead of Sabin Yousaf, who returns to the championship. And well, Alexander Novichkov is going back out. I don't think he's going to be able to get another lap in here, so they might just be testing something out here very briefly. There's not enough time left on the clock to get a lap in after this, because obviously the out lap is going to take well over 2.5 minutes to go around the Dubai Autodrome here, as we're using the full Grand Prix circuit configuration, just over 5 kilometers in length. So the team obviously want to try something out here for the number 8 driver, and of course our reigning national champion. And Johnny Kazoum also making his way out here as well. So that's quite interesting that those two have decided to go back out. Again, maybe they just want to try something maybe a little bit different here and see if they can go just a bit quicker through a couple of the corners here as Sabin Yousaf comes into the pit lane. 3rd overall in qualifying so far in class. In 7th position overall. He will share the 8th row of the grid with Andy Lowe for the time being, but that number 4 is still circulating and has actually just gone across the line as well. Amir Faisan's done a personal best, 2:04.719. That improves his position, puts him 9th overall, and he will line up provisionally at the moment alongside the 44. Now, yellow flag being shown at turn 8 here at the Dubai Autodrome, and the timer has officially counted down to 0. So that means this time round the session will be over. The checkered flag will be shown. Harry Hannum is a provisional pole sitter, but we still have drivers out there now. Is anyone on a quick lap? Amir Faisalin has gone green through sector 2 with a 49.014. Now, how does he improve his time, and where does he go at the end of the session? He goes 7th quickest, bumping down the 13 and the 4 as well to 8th and 9th respectively. Vasily Vladikin there across the line as well, or is he going to come straight into the pit lane? I think he might come into the pit lane as well. Will the number 96, he'll have to settle for 6th overall, as there is Novichkov across the line. second in qualifying here. A great qualifying effort there from Novichkov for Continental Racing as well, and that will give him the confidence boost that he needs here, as he can score some valuable points. And of course he'll start alongside Harry Hannum here, the very quick young British driver. Set the Clio Cup Middle East Field alight last season, joined us for the Super Prix as well, the Golf Radical Cup, and now has joined us for a full season here in Golf Radical Cup racing, and has certainly been one of the early stars so far, alongside former champion Alex Bukunstov and the likes of Usman Magala, former champion in the national class as well, along with Alexander Novichkov, who is the reigning national class champion. So this brings an end now to qualifying here at the Dubai Autodrome. Andy Lowe across the line there. No improvement on his time, unfortunately. I think possibly down due to that yellow flag down at turn 8. Now, Yahid Kardem has not come through, and there across the line was the 44 of Sergey. So, at the moment, provisional pole goes the way of Harry Hannum, and he'll line up alongside Alexander Novichkov, who will start on the front row for the first time this season. You can just see Novichkov there in the very vibrant blue and pink liveried car there, and in front of him is one of the Dream Racing. I think that's Alexander Chichava's car just in front of him, but Novichkov will be absolutely delighted to start on the front row of the grid here for race number 1 at the second round of the Golf Radical Cup. Now, on the row behind him will be a former champion. It will be Alex Bukunstov with Johnny Kazoum alongside for company. And I think Johnny Kazoum is going to be absolutely delighted as well with that starting position. It's his highest qualifying position this season so far. And after what happened to him with the brakes in the final endurance race of the weekend, last time out the Aston Marina circuit, this will also give him a boost of confidence, and the team as well. It's a very small team that run Johnny Kazoum. There's only about 2 people at any given time down there, but they do a fantastic job week in and week out just to keep Johnny Kazoum out there on track, and they've done a fantastic job here to give him a very, very competitive car here this weekend. And Johnny will be delighted, and so will the family as well, because they always come down to support Dad racing here at the Golf Radical Cup. So Perry Daramas and Vasily Vatikin will share the third row of the grid. Amir Faison and Sibin Yousaf, on his return to the championship, will line up on the fourth row of the grid with Andy Lowe and Sergey alongside for company on row number 5. Then we have Alexander Chichava in the 32 with Alexander Klebanov alongside for company on the 6th row of the grid, with Alexis and Yahid Kardem sharing the 7th row of the grid. And at the tail end will be Alain Alfonsi, the Frenchman, who lines up in 15th. Now, the entire field separated by 4.9 seconds between each other. So mighty close here, and of course we look forward to 3 intense races here at the Dubai Autodrome. We've got sprint race number 1 and sprint race number 2 today, and then tomorrow we'll have our 45-minute enduro, which will feature 1 mandatory pit stop here at the Dubai Autodrome for the second round of the championship. So Hannum and Novichkov will be the ones sharing the front row of the grid here. And that means Novichkov has no one in front of him. Now, interesting enough, a yellow flag was briefly shown at turn 14 as per our timing screen here. And it's still waving at turn 8. I have a feeling that might have been for Yahid Kardem, who unfortunately did not get the lap time they would have liked to have had in. And the gap between actually him and the 87 was 3/1000ths of a second at the line for position. And that was the 7th row of the grid. That's how close it is between those two. It was 11/100ths of a second separating Andy Lowe and the 4th row of the grid behind Yousaf in the 13. It was also 11/100ths of a second separating Perry Daramas from the 2nd row of the grid, and almost taking Johnny Kazoum's 4th place position away from him in qualifying here. So that brings an end to the session here at the Dubai Autodrome for round 2 of the Golf Radical Cup for the 25-26 season. It will be Hannum and Novichkov on the front row of the grid in the 19 and the number 8, and then alongside, behind them, will be Alex Bukunstov and Johnny Kazoum on the 2nd row of the grid. Alex in a somewhat of an unfamiliar territory for him. It's very unusual to see him not on the front row of the grid, and this season he really emphasised just how good he is in these Gulf Radical Cups, despite not doing a full championship and being out of the seat for such an extended period of time and adapting to other vehicles. But of course he's got his work cut out from here. Yes, there are only 2 cars in front of him, but it can be quite tricky, especially when you've got guys like Harry Hannum and Alexander Novichkov in front of you and the likes of Johnny Kazum alongside. So in the national class, our top qualifier was Johnny Kazum ahead of Perry Deramas, and there is a row splitting the two of them. And then we have to look down to the 4th row of the grid, where we find our 3rd best qualifier in that class, and that is Amir Faisalin, yes, in that 15 car, qualifying 7th overall. 2/100ths of a second behind him was Simon Yousaf, who momentarily had 3rd overall in qualifying in class, but Amir Faisalin beat him there to the line on the very last lap. He did as well with a 2:04.376. So great job there, but for Simon Yousaf, great to have him back in the championship. Hasn't done this for quite some time, and great to see that he's quick out the box as well. Same for Sergey as well in the 44, 10th overall in his first session here in the Gulf Radical Cup. Sergey with experience racing in Europe in MX-5s. Great to have more star power in the championship here.